Hello, everyone. First of all, greetings here from sunny Cape Town. And I'm going to give you a bit of an overview of how we have been piloting Symbio at Santam in the insurance industry. And based on this, we've now decided to purchase Symbio and replace Aras with Symbio. There are many use cases. The one I'm going to show today is more in the solution delivery agile space. That's not the only use case. For instance, this morning we had a session with the team responsible for process optimization and the Lean Six Sigma team. So that's another typical use case. So the one I'm going to go through now is when we execute projects, or what we call the way we work. So from an overview point of view, the problem that we sit is, if you start with the end, if you start with operations, in most cases corporates have got a lot of projects, and everybody is busy continuously optimizing the business and streamlining the business. The reality is every team most probably nowadays follow an agile approach. But in very few cases, when they finish with the project, do they have content that can then be reused in the operations environment for service delivery, for change management, for incidents, for problems, and that sort of thing. So the typical ServiceNow, Jira Service Desk scenario. So the enterprise architecture, or this business agility capability in the bottom, is in most cases not trusted, although it went through a cycle where people changed the current environment to get to a new environment and to continue the cycle. What we liked about the Symbio concept is that Symbio supports this cycle very nicely, in the sense that you have a trusted environment when you complete it with the cycle. And I'll try and explain that in the next slide. So like I said, we call this thing the business solution delivery lifecycle. And in essence, here's a very quick overview. And I'm going to show the concepts a little bit later in Symbio. So starting from the left, we have a project portfolio, which we document and modeled in Symbio, where we release it. And so you've got ownership of who owns projects. Each project is then unpacked in its detail in terms of the project concept. So at this stage, the key thing here is to identify the strategic goals, the stakeholders, and which business processes are impacted by this project. Because the business processes at the end of the day use the applications, the data, the technologies and stuff. We have this thing called the stage 0 business case. So at this point in time, the project either goes on, or the project might be cancelled, or the project might be changed in terms of its scope. Once a project has passed the stage 0 case, we go into the step of initial requirements. So this is to use the business processes, look at the potential changes and identify where we want to make changes, and then document those changes as requirements or user stories against the process. So it's not designing yet, it's just identifying the gaps and identifying those gaps as requirements or user stories. So all of this sits against the business process. At this stage, this is where, well, all of it, but this stage, this is where Symbio really comes to play, because everything that's associated to the process, the systems, the data, the documents, anything is under ownership. So with other words, you can manage it. So that's fantastic. So once you've got the initial requirements, so it's a mile wide, inch deep view, it's handed over to the team who's responsible for the solution architecture. So if you think about a corporate environment, which is different to a small business, the changes will impact many different other areas. So there's always lots of integration aspects to consider. So everything is against the process. The team then unpacks this and looks at any potential areas that are of concern, and in most cases there's more than one solution design, and they have a tactical view, and they might have a strategic view, and it might be a cost situation, but ultimately a decision is made, and the decision is then based on the decision, the project has passed the stage 1 business case, where now the majority of the work starts happening. So the focus is this mile wide, inch deep. So with other words, that you can build up a trusted enterprise architecture of your enterprise, of your business on a continuous basis by executing projects. However, this side, it doesn't stop. So teams now start adding detail to the business processes, specifically here in the sprint cycle. So your user story is now unpacked with tasks. And tasks could be design tasks, development tasks, testing tasks. So all the design tasks and design artifacts is then associated again to the business process. For instance, screen designs. Might be that you have to do data models. It might have to be that you do deployment diagrams and things like that. So that is associated to the business process. What we also do over here, and this is something that is now coming, is the ability to migrate the identified requirements here and here and any place over here to Jira. So Jira is used at Santam as the agile platform for managing or tracking the requirements realization. So this is now currently in process and will be released soon, so that you have the ability that the requirements is seamlessly integrated into the Jira environment. So in short, the end-to-end life cycle. This is just a more detailed picture, and here you can see where Symbio and Jira is going to play a role, and how the two fit together. And here right at the end, it would be it's going to be either Jira Service Desk, or it will be ServiceNow. That's still the final decision still has to be made which one it will be, but whichever one it is, it will use the information that sits in Symbio, so that when you start getting change requests, when you start getting incidents, problems, you have the ability to work from a trusted environment to understand the impacts of your change request on the environment, because Symbio managed the whole cycle, and not just at the model level, but also at an object level. So the focus is this area, and from here we are now in the process of building dashboards. So the dashboards will be the things that the CIO and the key management team will focus on. For instance, things like the application portfolio, your process maturity, your migration planning, which is a huge thing because your business changes the whole time. So you want to understand which systems are going to fall away and when are they going to fall away, when new systems are going to be deployed, status of process changes, the whole migration environment. And down here, your whole project portfolio associated to strategy, project portfolio associated to your business processes. With other words, on business processes, you know the roles, and from the roles you can start doing an early on impact assessment of resources across the enterprise at this level already. So that's a very powerful capability to have. Data is another huge area. It's also been developed, and it's also in Symbio already, is the ability to model your data, logical and physical, and to associate the logicals to the inputs and outputs on business processes. With other words, you've got full traceability in terms of where business terminology has been used, how it relates to logical data models, and where it actually originates or occurs in physical systems. So data is, for any business, data is important, but I think in the financial services business, data is a crucial thing. And then obviously, this is not everything, but strategy realization. So you want to understand your strategy and heat maps to understand your strategy has got associated projects, and where do you stand with your strategy realization in terms of, is it green, red, or amber? And all of this is driven from Symbio, but with Power BI report capabilities. So that's in a nutshell what the focus is. So the slide just basically says I'm not cutting this off. So for today, I'm just going to focus on this piece. So projects, initial requirements, and target solution architecture. So with that, I'm going to switch to Symbio. Yeah. So like Mikael, we've got so in here we've got an overview. So people use Symbio. So in here it's very easy for them to understand what our focus is. So business process and the connection to systems, the connection to technology, and business process, association to requirements, and then the whole life cycle. So just a visual view of everybody that comes on board, and we train teams and we equip teams, they understand where they fit in. But with that, we've also included the way we work right here. So this is the same thing. And from here, you can now actually follow the cycle. We've also structured that to our training. So the training is also done in here. So if you equip a team and you click on here, it will open up the training module. So this module is now, how do you model a business process? So this is model a business process. And I must say, Mikael, now that I've seen the documents area, I will redo this one. But this is that was actually fantastic to see. But what we've done now, for instance, is if you go through this, you say, okay, create categories. And here on the side is the information. So this is what you do in that step. So in that step, you explain the step, next step, and so forth. So the training is actually associated to the business process. So it's very easy for somebody to go through the cycle until they hit the end here where they say you've got a publish process or a release process. So that's the one aspect that we have done. So the training is actually managed also through Symbio. So if I go to a typical project now, and one of the projects that we did was in the finance space. So if I go to the finance environment and I go and look at my process, just want to see here quickly, accounts payable. So this is a little simple process called process requisition, sort of a generic process for most businesses. So this process is the process which is executed by the finance department, but triggered from all different other areas where they want a requisition to be executed. So at the early on stage for this process, you can look at the context view of the process. So you can actually see the ownership of the process, the goals, the risks, any predecessor processes. Do you have any successor process, primary systems, secondary systems, input, and so forth. So this is the helicopter view of the particular business process. And as you know, this can be configured in Symbio, so you can change this any way you like. So from that, we have the process, and one of the favorite views is the matrix view, where from the matrix view, you start now identifying the key inputs, outputs. You're looking at the various systems associated. And as we know, all these systems belong to owners in Symbio, and you have your risks, you have your requirements, and all of that. Now, before I go to the system view, if I just look here on the side, it's now attached here. There's what we call the application corporation view. But before I go there, so this was the business process. So in here, we went now and we create a scenario. Support process. So here under finance, there's the same process, but here we look at the scenario. And I just want to maybe switch to the vertical first. So this is the scenario. So the process was this process requisition. But remember, when we looked at this process, there were predecessor and successor processes associated to this thing. So here they are. So each one of these sub-processes also have got systems on them, as well as the successor processes. So from here, what has happened now, the team then went and they looked at the system design associated with all these systems. So now you come up with an architecture view of how this process is being realized. So here you see the predecessor processes, and what you see using the stereotypes and the lifecycle attributes, you can see which things are going to be replaced or terminated soon. And in here is the detail. If you click on it, it opens up the detail. But this now gives you what we call the application corporation view. So it shows the various application components, interfaces, data stores, and so forth, or data objects that have to work together to realize this particular business process. And this is the design that is then reviewed formally in a meeting which we call the Solution Design Forum. And if you have more than one design, that is reviewed over there, and then the team makes a decision on the appropriate design, and the thing is versioned, and from there everybody's on the same page, and your development thereafter, working on the user stories, will be based on the architecture. This was a fairly small project, or small, yeah, it was a small, well, the people thought it was a small project, but clearly you can see there's quite a lot of impacts. Now at Santam, like many other businesses, the business is going through a lot of change, and one of the things that is changing now is actually moving from old mainframe solutions to modern platforms. And a big part has already been converted to a package called a Guidewire, so Guidewire Policy Center. The next one is claims, so it's Guidewire Claim Center. So for many years, I don't even know how many, plus 20 years, the environment has worked in a mainframe environment for the claims environment. So if you look at claims as a end-to-end cycle now, the question comes up to play. If I look at this thing, I just want to make it vertical. Which are the processes? So these are all the processes in the claims area. So this is the complete end-to-end claims lifecycle. So here you can see everything that is in red is going to be replaced by this new system. Everything in yellow will remain, but there needs to be significant modifications or changes to it. So that gives you a helicopter view. Then from there, it's a very high level use case view that was built for this view. So this, you can now see all the systems. So that is a system, and that's the use case. And you can see this, what we did here is all the systems to the left are the things that's going to be replaced. All the systems to the right will stay, but when the line is red, it means there's significant integration changes. And you can see basically the whole world changes. There's only one green line over here. So that's the only thing that's not changing. So this environment is not changing for that one integration point. So this gives you an overview of this environment. And I'm sure Oliver is sitting there thinking about many comments to make now. Yes, we are changing this environment now so that the system design aspect is going to be more related to Archimate in Symbio, and that most of these what-if analysis aspects will actually be in Power BI. So in Power BI, maybe just to show that quickly, because data plays a big part in any of these projects. So in the BI environment, this is just a mock-up. Well, it's a mock-up, but it's real data. So if you look at your data models, so you have logical data models and you have physical data models. So in the physical side, yes, you have tools that can reverse engineer these things into data models, and we've got the data facet here in Symbio. Maybe I'll just go there quickly. So I've only got a very small example here. So I've modeled here the change that we want to do to Symbio to actually cater for this. So you can see there's a data model. So the data model, but this is the logical data model. I haven't got the physicals in here. So if I now go to which I wanted to explain on data, if I go back again here and I go to the BI environment, you also have the ability now to show your data as a report, the physical data. And because it's a report, every time that database gets refreshed, you will actually see the data in the report environment. What now? Why is it doing this to me? No, something is wrong here. Okay, I'm going to leave that there. I don't know why it's doing that for me at this stage. Just want to see. Same with the application portfolio. Yeah, so if you look at this is not done 100% correct as we wanted to, but the question always comes up, what are your systems? What is going to be impacted? Lots of meetings. This all comes from Symbio now. So in Symbio, when you start doing projects, and what I've shown now by modeling your business processes, your systems, your solution architectures, this gets updated on a continuous basis, and you have a trusted source to look at your application portfolio on a continuous basis. So I think, Mikael, in a nutshell, I think this is the whole thing that I wanted to cover. I don't know if there's something else that you specifically would like me to focus on, but basically it's to equip business analysts, systems analysts, change managers, developers, testers across the whole cycle using Symbio as the source for communication. So I think that's what I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thank you too, Etienne, for this presentation. I guess we have a few minutes, so the attendees can ask you questions. And sure. Let's wait another few 1-2 minutes so they can type it in.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and I will tell you the questions when I get them.
Okay. All right.
Thanks for your presentation. It's really interesting how you work with it. So really great. Thanks again. So let's.
No problem.
There are some questions. So right now, no questions. Can you tell us maybe or detail how long you are working with Symbio?
Yeah, quite a long time. So we've been on and off evaluating various products to replace Aris. So I would say actively probably a year that we've been busy with Symbio. And like I say, there are many use cases. So the key use case that we wanted to focus on is to execute projects. Because ultimately that changes the processes on a continuous basis, and you want to manage that. So, yeah, on and off a year, but as a pilot, it wasn't actively done by the whole business. So it was a subset of people, and which to build the business case, and the business case is now been proven, and the business has decided that Symbio is the way forward.
Oh, sounds great. So there's a question of how many people work on that project?
On a project?
Yes.
Look, it's a corporate. So if you look on the slide here on the project portfolio is a long list of projects. We classify projects into what we call strategic projects, BT, which is below threshold funding, and PIC, which is project investment funding. So it's just thresholds in terms of above 10 million, below 10 million, and stuff like that. So the whole, if I put it into perspective, there are over 200 and I would say 240 people in various capacities, developers, testers, business analysts, systems analysts, working on projects the whole time in this environment, in the corporate. So it's a big area. So and it's distributed. So it's not just located in one area. So it's all over. So it's Johannesburg, Cape Town, Namibia. And yeah, so that's about the size of it. So the business is, there's more projects than people.
Yeah, I see. Well, the next question is, are there modifications in Symbio to provide all these functionalities, or are you in standard?
So the majority is standard. The one modification is, which will be available for everybody, is the ability to migrate requirements from Symbio to Jira. So that is a standard, that will be standard functionality, which will be released later. I'm talking under correction here, but probably in February it will be released. So that is something that is coming. But the rest is pretty standard. Yeah, I think the other enhancement was input into how we could optimize the system design aspect so that it is more data driven, so that you can actually be more in line with the Archimate standard. And that is progressing very nicely, but that will be also standard once it's done. So there's really nothing here that is unique just for Santam. No.
Yeah, thanks for your answer. So perfect on time, I would say. It's 2 p.m. In Johannesburg, it's 3 p.m.
Yep.
Yeah. The question for the modification is: did you also do the configuration? Is there anything configured in Symbio? For example, the extended configuration, did you use anything of this?
Yes, I did. I mean, for instance, for the if you talk configuration, like the fact sheets, for instance, yes, we configure those things, but there were standard configurations in the admin area, so nothing special.
Okay.
Very easy to do. Yes. Yeah.
Just
a normal, just tweaking it a bit there in terms of, for instance, if you go to projects now, if you see this, the same concept there, nothing special. But if you go to a project and you go to this one, for instance, or that one, if I look at the graphic, and if you look at this project canvassing, this is just configured in Symbio, and it tells you an overview of a particular project. So at that first step, this view, if I go back there, I'm a bit quick here now. So this view, if you go back here, this thing over here, this project concept, that is actually what is discussed in the meeting with Symbio. So it's documented in Symbio, the processes associated in Symbio. The team that actually reviews this will use Symbio as viewers to see the content and give feedback. So those things were just configured, so nothing special, no.
Thanks. And how long did it take to convince the employees to use Symbio like this? And how did you convince them?
That's the most difficult part. It's typically like corporates. It's just like a big family. You always have a black sheep in the family. So it was, in some cases, very easy to convince the majority. It wasn't so easy to convince people who are stuck in old methods or stuck in their specific flavor of doing things. So that's why I think it took probably a year, because you physically had to go and build things. I mean, I built many things in here. I built a strategy in here. I built a project portfolio in here. I did a physical project in here to demonstrate the capabilities. So that I don't know if Santam is unique, but it was very difficult to get to the point where everybody understood. I think what helped was that everybody was frustrated with errors, because you didn't have this trusted environment here at the end that you could actually do what-if analysis. For instance, legislation changes in the South African market. There was your tax rates have changed, VAT, and now suddenly you have to go and find out where and which system is this applicable. So it's meetings, where, that was one of the things I used to show how important it was to manage data. So understanding where VAT is used on which processes, which systems, it makes it very easy. So it wasn't easy to sell. On the other hand, there's another company here now, a retailer, which now have also asked us to come and assist them, because they want to switch, and for them it was a very quick thing. So it was like I helped Oliver and them. It was, I think, 3 interactions, and now they already want to go and do a pilot. Mm-hmm. So I think it differs from company and maturity and things like that. I don't have a simple answer. It wasn't easy in this case.
Yeah, thanks, Etienne, for this insight. I guess your answer is good enough to see how difficult it could be to convince people to work with a tool like this, even it's so intuitive like Symbio.
Yes, I think it's just because you have so many people, and everybody, it's very difficult to get everybody in a big room and show them the benefits. You have to do it piece by piece. Mm-hmm. And slowly build it up. It's basically like I felt like a priest trying to sell a religion, and it's not that easy to convert people. If you're Catholic, you're Catholic.
Yeah. Understand.
So it wasn't that easy, but at the end, I feel very positive in the sense that specifically today, the session I had today was fantastic. It was with the business process improvement team, which was the people doing Lean Six Sigma, and it's quite a big group. I can see that the request for licenses that we wanted is going to be too small because they all want it now. And to be honest, they've just evaluated. I didn't even know about that. They evaluated Signavio just now, and they were blown over about how easy this is and how powerful it is. So that team was like a no-brainer. I think this whole IT crowd is a difficult one.
Yeah. So thanks for your participation and for your time. I think you have done a great job and give us a good overview how you work with Symbio at Santam. And yeah, thanks for your time. And I would say we go to the break. Do you want to say something? Last words for the crowd?
Yes, the only thing that I can say is, yes, I've showed you one use case, but don't forget we use Symbio for process improvement as well. We use it for standard operating procedures, so that will be the intent. The fact that I focused on one area now, standard operating procedures, here when you start deploying your solution, it's where you start having the touch points to training, to your standard operating procedures, all the things that actually affect the change when you want to deploy a solution. So it's not just the SDLC or system development side, it's all those things as well. So I can see that in the Santam space, Symbio is going to grow organically very quickly because just of everybody that can actually use it, the various roles. It's not just what I've shown today. Yes, that's my last point.
Yeah,